WrestleMania is right around the corner. We're 16 days out from going to Hollywood. For today, I want to register a couple of complaints with the stubbornness of two particular baby faces in their respective storylines. On Raw, my gripe involves Kevin Owens' stubborn refusal to accept Sami Zayn's help in taking down the Usos, who are part of the bloodline. Over on SmackDown, my gripe is with Rey Mysterio, whose unwillingness to fight his own son, who's part of the Judgment Day, who's part of Judgment Day. Now, I get this has been basically pumped into the characters, and especially when you consider in real life, Rey would never want to harm his own son. And the latter would never want to harm his own son. But let's start with the former. Throughout most of the fall, in the last fall, Kevin was constantly trying to lead the charge against the bloodline. Sammy had allied himself with the bloodline at that point. However, there was a catch. Namely, he had to keep jumping through hoops to prove his loyalty to the tribal chief Roman Reigns, even when he considered that the Usos were quick to accept him throughout the late summer and into the early fall. Now, the only time that Sammy didn't have the bloodlines back was at Crown Jewel against Logan Paul, due to political reasons, due to political and international and political reasons that would have caused an international incident had Sammy showed up in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, i.e., Sammy being the Canadian son, the Quebecois son of Syrian immigrants, Syrian immigrants who moved to Quebec, and how the Saudis have always basically cast the Syrians as scapegoats, and they probably would have killed Sammy on sight if he showed up on Saudi soil. Well, for those reasons, Sammy didn't get involved in the Logan Paul match. So I didn't mind that. It was understandable. However, come Survivor Series, he aided the Bloodline in getting a win over Kevin Owens' team of the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre, and Kevin himself. Then, leading up to the match between Kevin Owens and Roman for the Universal title at the Royal Rumble, Sammy was basically being jumped through hoops as Kevin got into his ear as a means to tell Sammy there is a way out. And sooner or later, he's going to realize Roman was just using him. Sure enough, Royal Rumble rolled around. Roman wanted Sammy to execute Kevin. Sammy didn't do it. Instead, he turned on Roman, realizing the whole time Kevin was right. However, Kevin didn't really. Jay walked out on the bloodline that same night, saying, "I'm done," at least on paper. Sammy wanted to reunite the tag team between him and Kevin, but Kevin said no. Fast forward to the Chamber. Sammy gets beat in front of his hometown and then gets mauled until Kevin makes the save, but not to reunite the tag team. Kevin has constantly gone solo since, despite Sammy and Cody's constant attempts to tell him, "This fight is too big for you to handle alone, Kevin." And I get it. Since at least 2009, during his tail end of his ROH tenure, Kevin Owens, or Kevin Steen, depending on which one you want to use, has always been a loner. And the time he is willing to ally with someone, it's usually for a means to an end. Even though many would debate that with his world championship run in ROH, where he was basically the figure piece of the Scum faction, of the faction known as Scum, suffering, chaos, ugliness, and mayhem. Anyway, And since then, Kevin has been getting mugged and mollywopped by the bloodline, by the Usos. And then, fast forward to last week, Sammy gets double crossed by Jay Uso. But granted, that's more due to the fact that Jay was acting to defend and loyalty not to Roman, but to his brother Jimmy. As essentially, Roman basically threatened that if Jay didn't show up on Raw last week, he wasn't going to cast Sammy as the scapegoat for the bloodline starting to crumble, fall apart. He was going to blame Jimmy for it, since Jimmy was the one who initially brought Sammy into the bloodline. Regardless, sooner or later, Kevin, and if it has to be the show, the Raw, the Go Home Raw event leading into WrestleMania, that you get your head out of your ass and realize you have to fight. You need Sammy as backup to team up with you to take on the Usos at WrestleMania and finally wrench away the undisputed WWE tag titles from them. So be it. But sooner or later, Kevin, you're going to have to pull your head out of your ass, dude. You can't fight the bloodline alone. And if anyone knows those bastards like the back of his hand, it's Sammy. Whether you want it to admit it or not, Kevin, you need Sammy as much as he needs you. Tortures me that your stubbornness and pride doesn't want to allow you to accept some help. On the flip side of that coin, let's go over to SmackDown, where the main problem, Max storyline I'm having, is Rey Mysterio constantly refusing to fight his son, Dominic. Now, let's recap. Dominic turned on his father back in September at Clash in the Castle, well, after Rey and Edge defeated Judgment Day. He defeated the Judgment Day. He ended up joining the Judgment Day shortly thereafter. And ever since then, he's been dogging and hounding his father to fight him. Rey has stood steadfast, saying he'd never fight his own son. But now Dom has pushed it to the limit, saying he wished Eddie Guerrero, that Rey's longtime best friend, WWE Hall of Famer, the late great Eddie Guerrero, was his father instead of Rey. A little callback to, that rather disgusting storyline mid 2005. You know, the one where Eddie was basically blackmailing Rey with this secret and humiliating him, and it revolved around Dominic. They had a match at the Great American Bash that year where if Eddie lost, he kept quiet. He'd shut up about it and leave it alone. But then, SmackDown following, he spilled the beans that kayfabe anyway. Rey was not Dominic's biological father. He was, and this broke then 8-year-old Dominic to where he basically shut everyone out, and closed himself off to the world. And that led to that ladder match, led to that custody ladder match at SummerSlam, which was, in my opinion, quite uncomfortable to watch. Rey won the match and got his son back, but only if only by way of Vicky Guerrero running interference, stopping her husband from climbing the ladder and preventing her husband from climbing the ladder. That was 18 years ago when that happened, or almost 18 years ago. But Rey, I'm telling you now, If you don't step up and say, you know what? Fuck it. No more am I going to spare my son the rod. I'm going to take the rod and beat him with it and bludgeon him with it. It may take something very drastic for you to realize your son is crossing lines he shouldn't cross. I mean, and believe me, and I'm going to hate myself for going down this road. And even though I know this is in bad taste and the WWE would never go down this path with it, imagine what would happen, Ray, if Dominic led the Judgment Day to your home. Let Damien essentially allowed Rhea to beat up Angie, your wife. And worst case scenario, allow Damien to, and for those wondering why I'm not including Finn in this, he's already got his match set up at WrestleMania. It's him against Edge, Hell in a Cell. So he's prepping for that. As for Damien, he might go as far as defiling your daughter, Alea. And your son stands over there laughing all the while. Well, that happens to his own mother and his sister. Is that what it's going to take, Ray, for you to take that rod and beat Dominic with it? Is that what it's going to have to take? And again, I hate myself for even suggesting that. I really hate myself for suggesting that. But it might be the road you have that Dom might go down to get you to finally face him at WrestleMania. If that be the case, as much as I hate to say it, so be it. So be it. I really hate having to have said that. Regardless, Ray, time has come to stop being the coddling parent. Be the disciplining one. Take the rod and beat Dominic with it until he is black and blue. And if it takes you until the go home SmackDown event to do it, you to finally agree to fight your son, whatever. I've even stated on the Stink Sheet podcast that if that's what it's going to take to get you to what I just mentioned is what it's going to take to get you to fight your son. I wouldn't put it past Dom to go to those lows. I really wouldn't. That's all I got right now. Leave a comment, smash the like, and sub to the channel. This is Mets 2128 signing out. Goodbye. Good fucking night. Bang.